We were saying just before, it's a bit spooky that it's so quiet, so close to the front line, especially I guess at this time of night. It makes it feel very like safe that nothing's happening, yet you're well within range of everything, within a kilometre from where we are. And only the last couple of days there's been a lot of footage coming out of people, journalists and everyone getting caught up in indirect fire and artillery and whatever, and we heard it coming in. So these people live within this, and I guess it's day-to-day life for them, but it's so far removed from I guess what we're used to. It's very confronting. G'day guys, I hope you're all well. I'm sorry if I look like shit. I've been out absolutely all day since like 5 a.m. and we got back really late last night from down at the front lines, where things got a little bit crazy, like literally as we were leaving. We'd been there for a few hours and things seemed a bit spooky, a bit quiet, and then as we were sort of coming out of one of the checkpoints, we had some minor problems at the checkpoint. But we started getting a lot of news coming through and reports coming through about Vladimir Putin's speech, his address to Russia of declaring independence of the Donetsk and Luhansk region. And we are somewhat thought something was going on because as we went into these areas, the soldiers seemed, just normal. And as we were leaving the area, they seemed a bit edgy. And it was like, fuck, is there something going on that we're not fully over here? These changes, the recognition of independence of Donetsk and Luhansk, of these areas which, if you look on a map, show inside the Ukrainian borders, on the very eastern border of Ukraine. These areas have been under Russian separatist control and occupation. And now that Moscow recognises them as independent, it gives Vladimir Putin and Russia the ability now to send in peacekeeping troops, saying that the Ukrainian aggression in that area and the bloodshed that has been happening in the Donetsk-Luhansk area, to send in a stabilisation peacekeeping force. And there's been many mobile phone videos of, massive convoys of buses coming in with troops on them, and different armoured vehicles coming in. Everything from like infantry fighting vehicles to like personnel carriers, mine clearers, and a lot of different fucking armoured assets rolling through. But one of the interesting things too that I, was witnessing through some stuff leaking out of that area is there was massive celebrations in the Donetsk area, waving Russian flags out in the street and stuff when they were declared independent from Vladimir Putin. That said, I guess at that point when Moscow has declared your independence, if you're a pro-Ukrainian in that area, then you're probably not going to go out with the Ukrainian flag. So it might, it could be a very biased view of what you're seeing. I can't get into those areas. Basically, no one can. If you are to go in, you have to go in through Moscow, and it'd be incredibly tough to do. I actually did try, but tough and very dangerous with the separatist control. We've also been seeing over the past 24, 48 hours, mainly the 24 hours post this, a lot more ceasefire violations and different weapon systems that we haven't seen used here in the last 4 years, being mainly the B-21 system, which is a grad. It's like a truck with a fucking big stack of rocket launchers on the back of it. It's like an artillery piece. And that's being confirmed being operational in the Donetsk region. And that is a big thing because that hasn't been there for years until today. It has been actively used, and there's been incredibly heavy shelling both ways. One of the other huge things with this recognition and a new treaty being signed between the Luhansk People's Republic and the Donetsk People's Republic with Vladimir Putin, with the leaders of those independent states, I guess now, and Russia, and now a treaty between them. The part of the treaty is permission for Russia to now build military bases and have military assets in these areas, which the international community, the UN, anything you bloody look at, recognises that as Ukrainian territory. Basically every country, and the UN has come out and said this is completely illegal and this is against all the treaties and the Minsk Agreement, everything that we've had in place. You can't do this anymore. You can't, it's not the Wild West where you can just go stick a flag in the ground and killing on who tries to come near your fucking line you've drawn. The Ukrainian President Zelensky, has said internationally recognised borders of Ukraine will remain the same despite the actions of Russia. Recognition of the independence of the LNR and the DNR means the withdrawal of Russian Federation from the Minsk agreements. I thought I'd pull out too some interesting quotes of Vladimir Putin's speech. This went for a long time, an address to the country and really an address to the world, what's going on. I think at least a lot of official eyes everywhere, especially Europe, are looking in on this, looking at the potential of what this means for not only Ukraine but now the rest of Europe, and how we'll all respond to that. And even Australia has reached out and tens of thousands of kilometres away. Vladimir Putin says, those who embarked on the path of violence, bloodshed, lawlessness did not recognise and do not recognise any other solution to the Donbass issue, except the military one. In this regard, I consider it necessary to take a long overdue decision to immediately recognise the independence and sovereignty of the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic. I ask the Federal Assembly of the Russian Federation to support this decision, and then to ratify the treaties and friendship and mutual assistance with individual republics. These two documents will be prepared and signed in the very near future. And from those who seize and hold power in Kiev, we an immediate cessation of hostilities. He goes on to say, otherwise, all responsibility for the possible continuation of bloodshed will entirely be on the conscience of the regime ruling on the territory of Ukraine. Announcing the decisions taken today, I'm confident the support of the citizens of Russia and the patriotic forces of the country. He continues, if Ukraine was to join NATO, it would serve as a direct threat to the security of Russia. And this is obviously an escalation and a rise in tensions in this area. We couldn't believe last night, me and another group of people here, basically saying to each other, it's happening. Like, he couldn't believe it's actually sort of going down. Now, was this an invasion on like where I am? I'm not really sure, maybe 50 kilometres from that area, maybe a bit closer. No, people are telling me, like, who are back in Australia, and some idiots on the news are acting like there's tanks rolling down the street where I am. Now, I'm not saying that hasn't happened before. This exact area where I am has been occupied by separatists before, but it's not that. The Russian peacekeeping troops, and I say that flippantly, are moving into now what Moscow declares independent states, but the rest see is occupied occupied Ukrainian territory. I guess, how am I finding it on the ground here? It's so weird that people were almost expecting this would happen, and I think there's just fatigue of war. I think these people here have been at war for so many years, and Ukraine itself has been at war basically its whole history, but especially the last 8 years, and people went through an occupation and then a retaking of say, the city that I'm in, that they're sort of just over it. I think there is a lot that are very concerned, don't get me wrong, and there's a lot that I think are just that sick to death of it, and just that fatigue of war. They're just moving on, and that's very difficult. What is the bunker situation in this area? Well, we had a look at some bunkers, and there's about 160-ish thousand people in this area. A lot of the bunkers were not up to standard, and a lot of them are more basements than bunkers. And even running the numbers really loosely, you're not even talking anywhere near like a fifth of the population could actually be in a bunker. So there's some good ones at some schools and stuff, and these are all open source to find. But there's also ones that are completely run down, don't exist, or are locked. There is also people concerned about more false flag events and misinformation where, an attack is carried out by separatists or, pro-Russian separatists, and it is seen and they try to put it on as Ukrainian-backed militia or Ukrainian military as almost a means to justify then a further attack or a further invasion. And the news here is it's so hard to disseminate what is actually happening. Last night, I went to bed fully expecting to go to sleep in Ukraine and wake up in Russia with a fucking BTR rolling down the street. BTR is like an armoured vehicle. But then Russia has basically said we're not going any further than this. And no one knows. There's one guy who knows, and he's sitting in the Kremlin. Basically, every country has put that harsh sanctions on Russia, but if you look into Russia's economy, it may not actually affect them that much. I'll make something on that as well. But I hope this breaks down a little bit of what happened last night. I know it's confusing. I am here, and I am still reading through some messages and some quotes and stuff and going, what the fuck is actually happening? So I'm trying to do my very best. I'm not a journalist. I'm just some dude here with a camera. But there'll be more footage of yesterday coming. But I really appreciate you guys sitting around with me and chilling out for a bit. Look after yourself. I'm safe. Don't worry about me. Everything's good. I had a super long day today. It just didn't work out for me. I booked a private car down to go to an area to meet a guy for a meeting. And then he got caught up and couldn't come. But then I was like, fuck, like my whole day's gone, and it was fairly expensive and stuff. But that's something I'm going to have to get used to in this game, is just being a bit disappointed occasionally. Right. I hope that sums it up. Thank you, guys. Thanks for all the support as always. I'll see you soon. Cheers.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.